Hey, it's Vanessa Vaughn, the founder and chief resilience officer of Asfalis Advisors. I'm here for another episode of the Crisis Corner Cafe, and this week we are talking about the water crisis. Again, these conversations are informal. They are designed for leaders who are responsible for managing global risks, whether you're the chief risk officer, the chief operating officer, or the chief security officer of whatever company that you belong to. This conversation is designed for you. Many people always say, we're not in the middle of a water crisis. I beg to differ. Actually, what we do or what we don't do today impacts the future of the water supply that we actually have access to. So let's begin with the end in mind. What are water shortages or water crises caused by? At a very high level, it boils down to three things. There's an increased demand due to the growing population that we're seeing globally. Number two, it's because of the shortage or the shrinking of rainfall totals that we're experiencing. And number three, it's a result of the greater evaporation that's caused by global warming. So yes, global warming is a thing, and it's actually one of many contributors that ties into the water crisis. So what are some statistics, Vanessa, that you can share from an Asfalis perspective that we need to know? Absolutely. What I thought was pretty astounding was that the average person uses about 300 gallons of water per day. So think about your workforce, think about your community, think about your neighborhood, think about your country. How many people are you surrounded by every day? And multiply that by 300 gallons. And that's how much water we are using per day. Additionally, agriculture, right? How we eat makes up about 70% of the water supply. So out of 100, agriculture takes 70%. So the 30% is what's remaining. And about 50% of the water basins are actually projected to lose a monthly supply by 2071. So what that means is that today, right now, if you are in the process of growing your family and expanding your legacy, the decisions that you do or do not make today will impact your children, because by 2071, give or take a couple of years, they'll be about the age of 50 years old. And they may or may not have access to water. That's a reality check for us, folks. So what do we use water for? Drinking, washing, cleaning, cooking, growing food, generating electricity, manufacturing products, transporting people and goods, watering our lawns, flower beds, vegetable gardens, washing cars, filling swimming pools, firefighting, street cleaning, watering public areas, spreading fertilizers. So we use water for so many different things, and there is not one company who does not use water, right? We use water in restaurants, hospitals, laundry facilities, dry cleaners, golf courses, hotels, car washes, beauty shops, barbershops, gas stations, health clubs, you name it, we are using water. We're using water. Think about this. For us to actually produce a burger, a fry, and a soft drink, that's about 1,400 gallons of water, just for those three items. So think about how many burgers, fries, and soft drinks McDonald's, Wendy's, and every other fast food restaurant is selling every day. 1,400 gallons of water. And to be honest, it's not even healthy food. Think about it from this perspective. Less than 1% of water on Earth is actually fit for everything that we need that I just listed above. Think about that. Less than 1%. So Vanessa, what's the impact? How does this tie into me from a business perspective? Again, when there's a lack of an adequate, healthy water supply, the impact to you from a business standpoint is that there's drastic consequences as well as an increased rising of costs. If it takes water for me to actually get what I need to manage the business and the operation as well as my people, and there's a lack of a source of water, what do you think that does to your costs? Economics says costs go up, right? It also impacts or reduces our food supply. Health hazards increase. I talk to businesses all the time and I say, hey, what's the impact if you lose 20% of your workforce? And they often say, well, how would I lose that? Well, one answer is a lack of a water supply, because diseases spread from that perspective. Not only that, but if you have young children or youth that you're at home with, their immune systems are not to the place where they can typically sustain those types of challenges, right? So all of those things tie into you from a business perspective. How we use and consume water is directly tied to your bottom line. That's why it's so important for you from a business perspective. This is also why the 2015 Paris agreements that the United States, due to the former president Barack Obama, collaborated with across many countries were so important, because the 2015 Paris Agreement was designed to combat climate change and to accelerate as well as intensify the actions and investments, right, that are needed for a sustainable low carbon future, which simply means it helped to create accountability and develop a strategy for the world to use in terms of water. So now the United States has been pulled out of the 2015 Paris agreements. Again, these things tie into how politics impact business, right? The decisions that are made at the federal level tie into how we interact, to what happens to our businesses, and how we're able to leverage things globally and strategize. This is why it is important for business owners to understand politics and what's happening around us. So what can we do now? Well, what I love about entrepreneurs is that we are designed to think about problems and to fix them, right? So the first thing that I can say is meet the needs of the water supply by leveraging solar power. That's the first thing. The second thing is with water, quality and quantity are equally as important. And how we do that is critical. So think about that and whatever solution that you and your organization may be thinking about. Also, design affordable water using a sound business model where everyone has an opportunity to win. And as always, I will leave the notes in this section as to different articles that I've read about, which also have different case studies in different countries who have used various models. Japan's currently going through this as they're preparing for the Olympics, and they're thinking about a water supply issue or crisis, right? How can we make sure that does not happen during the Olympics, such a huge time where so many people across the world are going to be there? As well as the last thing that companies can do is reduce irrigation for farming. Again, agriculture takes up 70% of the water supply. How can we reduce irrigation for farming to help reduce some of those dependencies that we have on water? So what can your company do, right? Well, number one, if I were working with the business, if Asfalis was engaged with you, we would always say the top two things is identify how much water you have and where it's going, because you don't know what you don't know. So what's the benchmark? What do we have and where is it going? The second thing is identify alternatives and then reduce the output. What other things can you do? What other resources can you be taking advantage of that's maybe not water? And how can you reduce the output of what you're actually using? Well, why should I do this, Vanessa? Because you need to manage your risk, right? Because again, how you consume water is a direct impact on your bottom line. Just by doing that, you reduce your operational and reputational risk. That's the first thing. Number two, it helps you to manage your costs. And number three, it helps you to generate growth through product innovation. If you're not innovating, you're not going to be here in the next 10 to 20 years, right? So that's why it's so important for you to manage your risk. Again, my name is Vanessa Vaughn, the founder and chief resilience officer of Asfalis Advisors. Thank you so much for tuning in to Crisis Corner Cafe. And we hope that this conversation has really, really helped you and your businesses to think about how water impacts your global operation.